great drivers perform when the pressure is at its highest, when the lights are brighter than they've ever been before. And that's right here, right now.
Capture that second one in 2020 would be huge for my place in the series. You know, a legacy of being a multi-time champion in the series. Only one person can say that, and that's Ray. So I would definitely like to add that to my name as well.
I want to try turn 3 and 4 over one more time this year. Top prize is probably pretty enticing to a lot of people, but for some reason I think just the glory of winning the championship is more important to me than just the money right now.
Lower the lights down, hand over my crown, hand over my heart. I do this for my town, I do this for my crowd. So turn me up real loud. My time, ready you get up and tell me to stop. Turning the track up, I'll never go back down. Hand over my heart, I do this for my town, I do this for my crowd. So turn me up real loud. My time, ready you get up and tell me to stop.
To $300,000 is primed for a high-stakes trip to the entertainment capital of the world, where tonight from the virtual Las Vegas Motor Speedway, we say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to round 15 of the 2020 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. As always, we're happy to have you with us on the iRacing Sports Network. We're alongside myself, Evan Pasoko, tonight, joined by Steve Letarte and Parker Kligerman on the call here, streaming live at eNASCAR.com. Guys, thanks for being with us tonight.
Oh, thanks for having us. It's going to be an exciting race. I can't wait to cover it.
Same here. Thank you very much for having us. This is awesome. Can't wait to see who's able to kind of lock themselves in, possibly into the playoffs of this race at Las Vegas. The series has always put on great races. I think Steve and I will try to, do our best not to take away from the excitement of the series too much. Leave the really hard stuff to you, Evan.
I'll tell you what, none of you guys are rookies for this eNASCAR series. We called the final one last year at the Homestead of Miami Speedway. Tonight, though, it is the second to last race of the regular season, and these are the points coming into this evening. Only 2 drivers you see highlighted in red locked into the postseason. That's Bobby Zalenski and Keegan Leahy. So everybody else still up for grabs who really aren't sure, Steve, who else is going to be in there after 2 weeks.
Yeah, I agree. As you mentioned, you look at the playoff bracket, the round of 8. That's the goal. Everybody wants to advance and make that first round. The Roval, Kansas, and Texas. You mentioned Bobby Zalenski, Keegan Leahy in there. When I look at the other playoff guys, Lowe, Conti, Luza, I think they have a chance with a good run tonight to lock themselves in. If they can do that, Parker, then they will start to fill out that round of 8 with only the final race, Talladega, next week.
Right, and that's what you want to avoid, Talladega. Just like in real life when we went to Daytona and saw that craziness in the regular season cutoff, that's the same situation at Talladega for these drivers. So if you can pad that points deficit tonight here at Vegas, that is going to mean so much in avoiding the anxiety of going to a Super Speedway race and putting your season in the hands of maybe someone else, which you just do not want to happen.
This is what these drivers ultimately are looking for. It is a similar playoff style to what you see in the NASCAR Cup Series. Ours is slightly modified. There is no win and you're in over the course of the regular season. You have to beat the top 8 in points after 16 weeks of competition. And once we get to that, we'll go racing for those 3 weeks. Then we'll whittle it down to 4. But something that we were discussing, guys, pre-race is that, well, there is no win and you're in regular season here in eNASCAR. There is in the postseason, Steve, and that can be a big difference factor maybe in how you approach those races.
Well, I think Bobby Zalenski loves that plan, right? He goes to the Roval, Mr. Road Course himself. Someone's going to have to try to upset him at the road course, at the Roval. But that's the playoffs. We still have to set the field, and that's what I'm looking for tonight. I think Las Vegas is a spectacular 1.5-mile racetrack. You see a lot of wide-open racing, a lot of close fender-to-fender action. Some cars handle better than others, but in the end, track position, maybe a little strategy can roll somebody to the front, get those points they need to join those guys in the playoffs.
Steve, I agree. I think, handling will be important here. After about 10, 15 laps, those tires start to fall off. You won't be able to stay flat out. And then when we look at that round of 8 and the win and you go on to the championship 4, I think that's important because it's so hard just to make the top 8 in this series with the competition level that if you do make it there and you're able to win in one of those 3 races, then by all means, you deserve to go fight for a championship. So I know tonight a lot of drivers, just like my own driver, Logan Clampett, are a little bit anxiety and thinking, all right, how can I get just that enough points that I can feel comfortable going to Talladega? And that's a tough thing to do.
I always say it right off at the top. It is the fight for $300,000, and we are that much closer tonight for the penultimate round of the regular season. Let's take a trip, though, around the virtual Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Hand things off. You just mentioned to your driver, Logan Clampett, for this week's iRacing Lap Guide.
Hey everyone, my name is Logan Clampett, and I'm here to show you a lap at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Okay, here we are, coming to the green flag. Got that sun blaring right in your face here during this time of day. Bring it towards the white line of the tri-oval, back up towards the wall and turn 1. You're going to want to give it a little bit of an arc. You get your left sides below the seam, flat footing it. That's very important here in race trim at this speedway. Bring it back up towards the wall, down the back straightaway. Make sure you're looking ahead toward turn towards 3, setting up your corner. Arc it a little bit more than turn 1. Bring it down towards the white line to carry that momentum. Bring it back up towards the wall. And that's a lap at Las Vegas Motor Speedway.
That was an awesome lap, Logan. Man, you and I have been talking all week, all right? I know this is awkward. I shouldn't be interviewing, right? We're normally texting. But, hey, all right, what's the anxiety level right now? You're 7th in points at Las Vegas. What's the anxiety level and what kind of speed you can be bringing tonight?
Man, well, my anxiety went down when I qualified 7th, so that's good. Car feels okay. Hopefully I can stay ahead of, I think it's Corey and Brad. Ray has a pretty quick car, so that's going to be hard to beat him. Hopefully I can keep the gap I have right now or try and get myself locked in tonight, but definitely a little anxious. Don't want to get wrecked for sure coming into tonight and then entering next week at Talladega.
All right, well, no pressure, but obviously I'll be commentating whatever you do or do not do. So make sure it looks good in that Lux Bean machine. All right, you just mentioned some of the competition out there. What are we going to see? What are the fans going to see here at Las Vegas? What kind of grooves are available? What kind of racing are we going to see?
Well, you'll probably see a lot of pack racing, especially on the restarts. As it transitions into the night, you're going to see even more of it. It's pretty flat foot for the first, like 10 laps or so. So it'll definitely be an interesting race. Definitely something to look out for, and hopefully not a lot of wrecks, but we're all going to be all grouped up together during this race. So going to be pretty scary for me, at least. Not for the fans, though.
That sounds awesome. I can't wait to see that. I love that kind of racing. It's definitely the fans out there watching will love to see that kind of racing. All right, just as you look at some of the competition, you mentioned it, but what are you going to have to do inside that 99 car to sort of beat these guys? What are you going to have to see out of it in the long run to go out there and compete with some of the guys you mentioned you felt were really fast?
Well, right now our car is pretty set up for kind of mid-run, so hopefully we can get the guys mid-run, and hopefully we don't get a full fuel run exactly, because we're not that great at the end of the long run. So hopefully we can get some decent kind of mid-runs and kind of play it out, play strategy, stuff like that. Try and keep ourselves inside the top 10 in a safe spot.
All right, I can't wait to see it. Sounds good to me, at least on paper. But every mid-run has a short run, so you might want to work on that as well. Evan, I think we can head down the grid and take a look at the full starting lineup for this race tonight.
Yeah, practice and qualified has now drawn to a close, so let's do it. Let's go down trackside. Let's turn up the music and take a look at tonight's iRacing starting grid for round 15. For the 16th time in his career, Michael Conti is on pole position, 3rd time this year and back-to-back from last week with a 29.209, bringing us to the green flag alongside the number 21 machine of Garrett Lowe. Jake Nichols, Ryan Luza, row 2 with Colin DeKeister and Graham Bolenstein, the top 6.
Yeah, we just heard from Logan Clampett. He'll start inside row 4. Justin Bolton down there inside row 5. Matt Busa from William Esports will be in row 6. And Casey Curran having a great year. Parker, your other driver there, row 9, Bob Bryant.
Yeah, he's trying to find himself not being relegated at the end of the season. Keegan Leahy all the way back on row 10. That's a bit of a surprise. He's won 3 races this season. Even Nick Ottinger there on row 11. Corey Vincent, I believe you heard Logan mention him being pretty fast tonight, starting back on row 11.
And continuing on through, these drivers with some work to do. The likes of Dylan Duvall, Malik Ray, and friends on row 15. You got Gorlinski, McCollum. There's one of the Latardi Sports entries, Santiago Tires. You got Jarl T and Eric Smith down through the back half of the field. Novak, Sheehan at the very bottom of the board. That's a look top to bottom in your qualifying session here from Vegas. Minus those top 2, everybody, or the bottom 2, everybody else in the field separated by just 0.2 of a second in the qualifying session. Steve, we get set to go racing for 134 laps tonight. Walk us through our ASUS race analysis.
Well, you mentioned it's at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, 134 laps, just over 200 miles. Fuel window, 60 to 65 laps. They have 4 sets of tires with one on the car that gives them 3 sets of tires in the pits. Pit road speed, 50 miles per hour. So we know we're going to have to see at least 2 pit stops to get the math to work. I don't think anybody can stretch it to a one-stop race. It's going to be interesting to see how they break it up.
Of course, all these races in this eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series, 50% of our NASCAR Cup Series counterparts, that's why we're racing for quote-unquote only 200 miles, is the fact that it is a little bit of a shorter race, mimicking a 400-miler. There's a look at our driver video wall, plus me not driving. That's a good thing. We'll be taking a look at it with all those on-board cameras as the race goes on and kind of giving you that inside perspective on what everybody's going to be doing as we fight for a good one. It is sunset conditions right now. The sun is diving behind the grandstands. We're going to race into the evening, which is a first in this series. This race has normally been kind of a springtime one in this series. Day race, it of course coincided with the first night race coming up this weekend. We'll do the same thing here in the iRacing service. Pace car is going to dive down and in this time through. As always, happy that you're spending your Tuesday night with us on the iRacing Esports Network and streaming live at eNASCAR.com. Michael Conti's got the #1 spot in qualifying for the 2nd week in a row. The field going to be in the hands of that number 8 Junior Motorsports Chevrolet, as the pace car is going to leave them too for 200 miles of racing, as we say, let's go racing from Las Vegas. Second to last race of the regular season. It was a challenge for the race lead to the outside. Here comes Jake Nichols. Conti leads lap 1, but it was not a good go for Garrett Lowe, who started on the outside of the front row, guys. He's already back to 4th, maybe 5th, behind the 53 machine Luza down low as Conti tried to block both the inside and the out.
Relatively organized first lap, even the second lap, 2x2. Not a lot of 3 wide, but you see the give and take through the field. Everyone's a little on pins and needles. This pack racing, as we see now, a challenge for the lead. 3 wide into turn 1. They'll think better of it, down to 2 wide.
Steve, this is pretty interesting because it's not like although the top line maybe has a little bit more, couple more cars in it, it's just not dominant. It's really, like they said, it's pack racing here to start as they're on newer tires, flat out, pushing each other. And it seems like the top lane maybe has a little bit of dominance in 1 and 2, but then loses that in 3 and 4. So you're trying to find yourself in both lanes on either end of the track.
That lap lead goes to Ryan Luza, going to be about his point to the back pocket as Lowe looked to the inside. Here comes the counter punch by Jake Nichols. He tried to get down low for a second, not going to happen. Conti fighting back now, and it seemed like the passing move was down low. Now lap number 4. Everybody in the field though. He's the lap down.
Luza controls the race. Had a great year so far. 3 wins, 3 in a row. Homestead, Bristol, and Richmond back earlier this season. He's, fallen off a little bit. Hasn't had a top 5 since back at Charlotte. We'll see if he can take this early success, try to control the race. I think that's the key. Even though it's pack racing, we heard handling does go away as now we see the 21 get to the outside. Garrett Lowe's going to contend for the lead with a little drafting help from Conti. We'll see if Conti can push him by.
And one thing people might notice is they're kind of pushing each other a little bit. Not quite side drafting. It doesn't quite work as well in these cars, so you really want to just get the push from from someone from behind more than you're going to side draft. But it is unusual to see Luza sort of going this hard this early. You know, a lot of the wins you see him have, he just sort of creeps his way to the front, really works on the long run of that car, the long run pace, and then you sort of see him show up towards the end. But right now, up at the front and trying to hold on that lead early, and that's something unusual, but hey, maybe something he's working on as we head towards the playoffs in terms of being better earlier on.
Yeah, he's really trying to get back into form. I was talking with Keegan Leahy a couple of weeks ago about how he's been able to spread his wins across the season, whereas Luza, you mentioned, got all three of them kind of back to back to back, and he has struggled a little bit since then. But notable for the drivers first, second, and third, Ryan Luza, Garrett Lowe, and Mike Conti are the drivers in third, fourth, and fifth in the points. If they can just get a decent finish, keep the wheels underneath them tonight, they will lock into the playoffs. Again, they only need to be 45 above to do so. But further back in the pack, it's not as calm as it is towards the front. It's all kind of around that number 2 machine of Ray Alfala. Matt Bruce into the mix as well. And I just talked about Leahy. He's working the inside in the number 32 machine.
As we go on board with Nick Ottinger, you see this is no one wants to see who's trying to battle for points. Nick currently 6th in the points, has a comfortable margin over 8th, but doesn't want to lose that margin. He wants to do the opposite. He wants to stay out of trouble, gain a few points, guarantee himself a spot in the playoffs before heading to Talladega. And this is nerve-wracking back here. He's well in control as you see him go to the bottom of Ray Alfala in that 2 right there. You know, the problem with pack racing when you're a driver or crew chief or a spotter is that you are so dependent on someone else's mistake. If there's an issue in front of these cars, there's just nowhere to hide.
Steve, who did you mention beside him right there when you're talking about the playoff bubble? That's Ray Alfala right on that bubble. I mean, that's a precarious place to be. As you said, it's where you're relying on your competitors here. And although all the drivers in eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series are insanely talented and they worked very hard to get here, they all push the issue. And that's when we see wrecks. They push the issue within nths of the degree. You're gonna see cars slot into spots here as we get later in this race, and especially as the restarts get later in the race. Oh, Ottinger gets a late move there on Keegan Leahy, just as you saw. That's something that these drivers do. They don't give each other an inch here at the racetrack.
A little bit further up, watching a battle for 6th position. Colin Keister and company from there on back have all kind of maintained from the get-go. But Brandon Cattell, that number 14 machine, up 5 spots off of the start of this race. So he's making some moves in the Clint Boyer Racing Ford. And just a little bit further back, the number 10 Justin Bolton right now, side by side with Michael Guest. These two going at it, P10.
11 laps complete. It looks to me like the cars are getting a little more single file, moving around a little bit more. That's why I think this battle is so interesting. All these battles, if you look further deep in the field, right there, the 36 of Chris Sherburne, 13th in points, 38 points out. He's going to have to try to push the issue. You know, I had a conversation with him. He has just had poor luck all year long. Feel like it was going the right way for him. Then he had some bad luck, bad runs. I'm not sure I believe in luck. Just bad runs. You know, didn't run near the front enough, and that's really the issue. Look where Sherburne's currently running, right? When you run outside the top 20, man, it is tough back here. Tough sledding. I mean, no space, nowhere to go.
Steve, it's like the mid-pack and cup, right?
That's it.
It's so hard. It's so, you know, you'll talk to drivers and say, I'll never be raced harder than you would in mid-pack in the Cup Series. And it's the same here in the NASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series, where this is the best of the best. That means the talent's all the way through the field. When you're in the mid-pack, you're not only racing, you know, trying to move forward, but you're racing trying not to fall back. Eventually, it's short tracks. You're trying not to go a lap down. It's intense racing because you know each and every position might be the difference between going that lap down or staying on the lead lap and having a way better finish. And so it's just a tough place to be. As you see Bob Bryan up there in that beautiful Lux Bean machine, the 77 car up there. Thank you guys for joining us. And a shameless plug for our new partner there at Burton Clegg Esports. But I like to look at those things. Hopefully it brings him some luck here in the Vegas racetrack, but not quite showing the speed maybe he wanted here early on.
Well, and what you talk about is speed. I really think that's the key. Evan, when I look at the playoff rundown, right, Davies, Vincent, none of those guys are putting pressure on the drivers above the cut line. I think that's the key today. If they can't do it here on the green, if we get a yellow or we talk about strategy, do something. Make them worry about you. Try to work your way to the front.
Yeah, and you can't make, too crazy of a move to go for the win or nothing. You got a points race. You do have to be smart about it, and we touched on it at the start of the race, the fact that the Cup Series had Daytona. We have Talladega. There's a block to the inside as Kane Cook going to bring Bob Bryant all the way to the grass on the front straightaway. You want to get what you can now, because who knows what happens when we go to Talladega. It's not going to be the end-all, be-all if you're 20 points below the cut line. But if you're only 20, say, above it going to Dega, I think you're going to be a lot more nervous. You want to get what you can now and maybe forcing those drivers into some mistakes. But this race certainly is settling in. Now 16 laps going to be complete this time by, and you got to get back here till about outside of the top 15 or so to see the side-by-side. That's Michael Grillian, the number 15, the 97, and John Gorlinski. Talked about those two right now, funny, for 23rd and 24th on track. But up at the top of the board, you can see the full running order top of your screen. Ryan Luza kind of settling in, leading this race, trailed by Lowe and Conti, but some drivers making the big moves. Parker, I'm looking at Nick Ottinger up 9 spots, Dylan Duval up 14. It may look like it's hard for these drivers to make the moves, but some of those guys mid-pack have figured it out.
And this is really where you're going to be working on taking care of your tires. So it's about laps 10 to 30 that the tire fall off really starts to become an issue, and it really comes down to how you treat those tires. That's why you see many of these drivers getting single file, trying to get in that best lane where there's the most grip. You see Conti there just looking for a little clean air on his nose over Garrett Lowe, and that's something you'll do as well. Just sort of searching, trying to keep the tires on you to be faster at the end of the run, but this is where we start to see the cars that have been taking care of their tires move forwards, like a Nick Ottinger or a Dylan Duval, and have that long-run pace in the car.
Parker, do you think...
Well, we don't see this, Dave, I just want to mention, we don't see this every week, but talking Las Vegas specifically, progressive banking is what makes that move to the outside for Conti a little bit more doable.
So it's funny, Evan, that comment about progressive banking was exactly where I was going to go with Parker. He mentioned tire wear, tire fall off. You know, we see multiple lanes, that progressive banking, that, and there's some bumps. They're very hard to see, but 1 and 2 is very rough end of the racetrack. As you climb the banking, the track gets a little bit smoother. Parker, it seems like right here, you see the leader, middle of the racetrack, not going down to that white line. A little bit of avoiding the bumps, but you think the higher you run, you also save a little front tire?
I think so, and I think the other thing there, the Vegas does a nice thing for you where they put those 2 white dots for the school cars they have. Their iRacing perfectly replicated those, of course, and we use those in real life as references to get around the middle of the racetrack and avoid those bumps on the bottom you're talking about, and I think that's the thing. We do the same thing here in real life where you'll run a groove higher to the middle, even to the top, because it just sort of opens up the quarter, changes the radius a little bit, makes you lean on those tires a little bit less hard, and therefore just gives you that chance to take care of them, keep some heat out of them, and that's exactly what these drivers are doing here. They're keeping the heat out of them, taking care of them, trying to make them last. Unlike this group back here, I think they're on a different agenda, which is they're just trying to find any space whatsoever away from the car next to them.
As we work deeper into this run, I want to welcome in a special guest for tonight's interview, the man at the top of Team Dillon Esports, team owner Austin Dillon, joining us on tonight's coverage. Austin, thanks for tuning in and joining us. We'll talk iRacing in just a second, but we're talking playoffs, and I wanted to mention as well, congratulations to you for making it on to the next round of the NASCAR Cup Series playoffs. It seems like you guys are kind of hitting your stride at the right time.
We've had some speed all year with our RCR, ECR Chevy, and we've just been working hard, and the last round really played to our strengths. Some of the short tracks we went to I really enjoy, and we executed when we needed to. So we're into the next round, and obviously Vegas got it circled. It's another great track for us.
And of course, you talk about that and your involvement here in iRacing and having a team in this eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series. Kind of give us the origin story about why you decided to get involved in this and create Team Dillon Esports.
Well, we put a lot of time in the simulated RCR that we have, and I know how important the future of our sport is when it comes to sim, and iRacing has done such a good job of kind of leading the way for connecting the dots with our sports. It's been a lot of fun.
And of course,
worked a lot with Blake Reynolds through the time I got to run, and he kind of spotted for me, helped me out. we've been having a solid year. Blake, he made it last year all the way to the finals there. Had a good run. So just looking for some good runs to finish out the year with Team Dillon Esports, and hopefully tonight at Vegas we can show that.
And of course, you talk about those drivers. You've got Blake Reynolds, you've got Michael Guest on your team. Not only do you have seat time in the NASCAR Cup Series, but you've got seat time here at iRacing as well. Participated earlier this year in the eNASCAR Pro Invitational Series. So having both of those bits of experience, do you have any kind of words of advice for your guys as they head into the last 6 weeks here?
Well, Michael and Blake both got me covered when it comes to iRacing, but in any form of racing, you got to have something that you're comfortable driving with so you can be aggressive when it counts and make it happen when you have that opportunity. So hopefully their preparation meets opportunity and they can go get it.
Well, Austin, thanks for joining us, and we wish both those cars the best of luck on track. That's the guy at the top of Team Dillon Esports, Austin Dillon, joining us on the broadcast here. Both his drivers working hard to fight for a relegation spot, to stay top 20, and to stay in this championship for 2021, Steve. And this is the thing that, I kind of always harp on, because it's one of my favorite things about the Coke Series, is you can't sign a 2-3 year contract to guarantee your spot here. We talk about those guys mid-pack fighting so hard. That's because they're fighting for the top 20 in points. You don't stay top 20, you are not locked in here for 2021. So you have to constantly perform, as we see Michael Conti take a look for the race lead on Ryan Luza.
Yeah, you have to perform. You see on the left-hand side, running order, those two names in red, Leahy and Zielinski. That means they're on to the playoffs. As you mentioned, outside the top 20, though, you won't be invited back. You have to earn your spot back in. So you have to continue to perform. In just a second, real quick, about Austin Dillon and his real-world performance. I have the pleasure on Saturdays and Sundays of covering his performance on the racetrack, and they have really struck it where they needed to. They have found speed, him and Justin Alexander. He's one of those drivers that, selfishly, I think a lot of us thought were going to be eliminated early in the playoff standings, and anything but. Has had great speed, both at the short tracks, at Richmond and at Bristol. And Parker, it's going to be interesting to see how he continues into the next round. He has a lot of confidence. You can hear it right there. He's excited to go to the racetrack.
He is, and you put it there. Justin Alexander and him have just really firing all cylinders. They had so much confidence coming to the playoffs, and I think a lot of people didn't even really think it was warranted confidence, but obviously they've shown up, and I think it'll be interesting to see how far they can really carry that through, and if they can, execute at a high level and find themselves maybe even potentially racing for a championship later this year if you bring performances like they had at Richmond. But one thing I'm seeing here, guys, this is a heck of a battle at the front between Luza, Conti, Lowe, Logan Clampett's coming up here, and Justin, I think you have more info from down the pits.
Yes, indeed. In fact, Ryan Luza, believe it or not, said in test races prior to tonight, he didn't feel comfortable with the race car and his speed, but as this race has gone on, he's been feeling more and more comfortable with the race car. Conti's also comfortable where he is, just small adjustments for when they get towards the pit stop window. While Garrett Lowe feels like it's better to have a more trimmed out car towards the front, and he's contented where he is. If those three can line up, Garrett Lowe says that is in a good position, he feels, for those respective cars. Back over to you guys.
That's a great report from Justin. We talk about this, Evan, in real life and in sim racing. Downforce versus drag. Where do you want to be? Garrett Lowe reported to Justin there. What did Justin just say? He likes a car trimmed out. So surprisingly, 31 laps in, Parker, it seems like even with low downforce, he's be able to keep those leaders in touch right here. You see he's got a good straight line speed.
And I think the key there, though, is looking up the sky, right? We talked about it. Evan, you mentioned it. This is an almost day or dusk race into the nighttime. The track temperature is dropping. The grip level goes up. That should help you a little bit. You see, well, look who's right there. It's right on his tail. That's Logan Clampett, the Lux Bean Machine. Love to see that. So another shameless plug. I'm going to just keep doing that all night, guys. I can't stop myself. But I think the one thing, another interesting thing is just, having a trimmed out car and seeing these lap times fall off a second and a half, a little bit more than a second and a half. That's a lot of fall off to have a trimmed out car, and you would want to be in the lead. So running in third place, I don't think that's a great place to be.
Parker, you get a D- on pep talks.
Scared
your drive. You interviewed your driver. Evan, did you see him? He had the poor guy. He looked pretty confident. When Parker got done, the kid looked scared to death. He didn't know what to do. way to go,
Well,
Parker.
maybe it scared him into a good thing because of all these drivers, Garrett Lowe started second. He's fallen back to third. Clampett's on the move, started P7. He's kind of the fourth and final car in that lead train. You can see further back in the pack, there's a lot more action going on with that 55 of Kane Cook is. It has not been a good run for Cook. He started 11th. He's down to 23rd. Quite a contrast to Zach Novak, who started 37th, but is up to 22nd. So drivers are really figuring out with this long green flag run to kick this race off if they got it right or not.
23 right there. Drives for Denny Hamlin and Michael Jordan. We thought that was an esport team announced today, or actually last night. They're going to take that same organization into real-world NASCAR racing. A huge announcement when every time Michael Jordan, with MJ, the most recognizable athlete in the entire world, joins in. It's unbelievable. So we're on board right now with Kerwin.
Steve, I think, you know what? They might be, I don't know if they'll put it this way, but they might be the first esport team to the real-life team.
Yeah, that's right. That's
transition.
right. Yeah, the transition.
I mean, I knew they were friends before, but, I mean, look, I think that we found the real connection here, the unlock.
What I think if Jordan Brand ends up on that car, it's got to be Casey Kerwin's paint, because that thing looks great as we go back down pit road and Justin.
Yes, indeed. And in regards to this tonight, Hudson Hammer gave a pep talk to Casey Kerwin saying, I know nerves are high, especially with yesterday's announcement, but just stay focused and focus on a top 20 was the goal for him and his team for tonight's race. He felt he has a good race car for tonight. His goal is simple. Just finish in the top 15, get a decent amount of points tonight. That was the focus, to try and keep things calm in the car for the 23 prior to tonight, and looking decent so far.
A couple of weeks back, guys, I thought that Casey Kerwin was going to be knocking on the door. He put a couple of good runs together. Thought maybe that he was a bubble driver for the playoffs. A couple of weeks there, they didn't quite continue those results. So now I think it's very clearly a battle for the 23 to just stay in this series, entering tonight 19th in the points. That battle for relegation, by the way, going to go all the way through the end of the year, the final two races of the regular season and the 4 in the playoffs. So that's a battle that we'll be talking about all series long and probably all night long tonight as well. As you can see, the Nani and Novak wanting to get up there. Those are two big names that I think a lot of drivers, Steve, may have had on their eNASCAR bingo card for the 8 playoff drivers, and both of them looking like they won't be fighting for the championship this year. That's especially a big surprise for the defending champion in that 90 Toyota.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to call that race. I saw Zach Novak take that car to a championship last year at Miami. I had him circled as somebody for sure moving over to Richmond Esports. I thought for sure he was going to contend to defend. And right now, I don't see him even making the top 8 and having a chance to defend.
Well, it is all Michael Conti up in the front for the moment, hounded by Ryan Luza and now P3 runner Logan Clampett as we race into the night from the virtual Las Vegas Motor Speedway. You're watching the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series, the iRacing Esports Network.
And those living apart. For classmates, graduates, and teachers making the best of it. For the restaurants delivering to our doorsteps. For the frontline workers putting it on the line every single day. For this great nation determined to be stronger on the other side. Thanks to all of you, we'll be together again.
Wild ride starts at NASCAR's Lady in Black.
Harvick wins the Southern 500.
And for 16 drivers, it's all or nothing the rest of the way. Fighting off elimination at the greatest tracks in the show. Threading the needle through the big ones. Fighting for the right to duel in the desert. Everything possible, nothing guaranteed. Yes, please. NASCAR Playoffs live from Las Vegas on NBCSN.
To you by Coca-Cola, the official fan refreshment of eNASCAR. And by Asus, an official gaming hardware partner of the 2020 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. Pit stops underway as we reach 1/3 distance. Want to remind you that as these drivers fight for the win on track, you could walk away a winner tonight as well by entering the Asus giveaway. There's content under the pits as all three of your top guys are in. But if you go to the Asus Twitter account at Asus_ROGNA, so that's ASUS_ROGNA, you can enter to win a 1-year iRacing membership, a Tough Gaming VG35VQ monitor, and as well an Asus swag bag. All that info and more, again, it's at the Asus Twitter account at ASUS_ROGNA for more information. Evan Pasoko, Steve Letarte, Parker Klickerman with you, and guys, all three of our race leaders came bombarding into the pit lane at once, and kind of right as we expected, at 1/3 distance, there's your current leader, Jimmy Mullis, but a pass out of pit road. I think Logan Clampett may have been able to undercut Luza and as well Conti with a more aggressive entry, and he may be in a good spot here.
I love early pit stops. Before we went to break, Parker mentioned about the speed fall off a second and a half, almost 2 seconds on tires, as now we see the leader come to pit road as well. You have to be good on pit road, good off pit road, and right here you see Clampett will be passed by Luza right here on the fresh tires. The 99 definitely showed up on the older tires. We'll see if he can kind of keep in touch.
So, Steve, this is your favorite thing, right? Aggressive pit strategy. If you have the opportunity, get on early, or stay real late, right? Try and have those tires late, and it looks like Alfala, Leahy, that some of these guys maybe were trying to get there earlier and sort of leapfrog our leaders, gain that time on the newer tires.
Yeah, listen, you got to do one or the other. Be either the first wave of cars or ride it all the way until you need fuel and go all the way to the end.
Well, there was a bit of contact with those drivers on pit road. Let's take a look. This is on board with Ryan Luza. Remember, he was third in line. Actually, looks like he might have ended up being second when this all happened. That's Michael Conti up the road. Oh, got a little bit of a touch, and a great job by Conti, not only to save that race car, but to not speed, guys, and that contact allowed the 99 to sneak through on the inside there.
I love that. It just shows how competitive this is. And I mean, you can't give anything up. Luza's going to get right to his bumper and try to stay right with him, knowing that they were pitting on that lap. I know some of these drivers are working together and trying to figure that out, but some are probably trying to hide it from each other. And so you want to stay right with them. And I mean, that's something that's incredibly tough to do. Judge the distance of the car in front of you while you're trying to slow down those old tires on a pit road that's historically tough to get onto under green as well. So I just, that's awesome save by Conti and great driving by them to get away with that.
As you see right here, the 15 continues to fall back. That's the old tires. You just see how much speed they give up versus the new tires right here. Big fan of my driver, Chris Shearburn, in the 6th position. One of the first, if not the first car on pit road. He's used those new tires to leapfrog. I mentioned earlier, this is the guy who came in the 13th in points, 38 points out of the playoffs. The only way to advance is points. You keep saying it, Evan. There's no win in advance. There are no stages. It's the last lap of the race. Be aggressive. We only have this race and Talladega to set the playoff field. Brad Davies really in the same boat right there, the 88 turning to the left of the 36 of Shearburn. These two guys have got to find some points.
And I know Zelensky's not in the same situation points-wise, but it is strategy-wise here. These three all came down pit road 9 laps to go together, so they undercut your race leaders by about 3 laps. That gave them the track position initially. Remember, those guys had broken away. Luza and company had broken away before the pit stops. They undercut, got the track position. Now they are on a little bit older tires, and here comes the faster drivers on board. Bobby Zelensky, left-hand side. There goes the 53 of Luza. He'll now go on Davies. He'll get after Shearburn, and it should eventually cycle that group back to the race lead. But you can see how much better the 53 is center off of the corner as he works his way through all of this right now, battling for 4th on back. We're also still waiting on Michael Guerrilla, Jarl Tien, and Phil Diaz to come down pit road. But other than those 3, everybody else has been in.
Yeah, and Shearburn was hoping those 3 would have pitted. That would have given him a lap to lead. That is 1 point in his bucket. That unfortunately didn't happen, and now Luza on those fresh tires has overtaken the 4th position. We know it's 4th on the racetrack, but in the virtual world, it's really the lead. The front 3 must come to pit road soon. The question I have is, are these guys trying to stretch it long enough to do it in one stop? At this point, they've already lost their track position with the leaders only 23 seconds behind. They're really gambling for a yellow for this strategy to work.
I'm just looking, they started Guerrilla 14th, which would be a little bit more surprising, I think, for somebody who started up towards the front to do this strategy. But if we remember, we touched on him. He had fallen way back to kind of the mid-pack area. And then Jarl Tien, who started 35th, Parker. I think maybe if you're a driver that's in that portion of the field, you're maybe a little bit more inclined to take a gamble because, if the gamble doesn't work, you get 36th instead of 35th, as opposed to kind of rolling the dice for the top 10 car already.
Right, it's not a huge net loss, and that's the big thing, is the net gain and the opportunity versus the net loss. We've seen Jarl Tien do similar things before. I think it was earlier in the season, he stayed out really on really old tires. I believe it was maybe Richmond did get to the lead of the race from way at the back. So he's done this sort of thing, and it worked out for him. It's just at some point, as you said, you've got to sort of weigh, how much am I going to lose? All right, I'm not going to lose much. Why not take the risk, take the opportunity, and see if you can have it go your way? But it just... I don't think they're going to quite get to that one stopper there, Steve.
So, Parker, I was wondering if you were going to give my car a shameless plug. You plug your sponsors.
Yeah.
And as your man, the 99, runs down Shearburn in the 36, that main and tail Chevy, I'll have to give the plug myself. Thought you were Mr. Billboard tonight and got to give them all. What I'm impressed with is, while it's obvious Shearburn doesn't have quite as good a pace because the tires have aged, he's holding on nicely, Evan. I really think this is going to be a net gain. He was running outside the top 17 before that early pit stop. Even if 3 or 4 cars go by, much like the 99 right now of Logan Clampett, Shearburn, so much experience. I think he knows how to kind of get back in line.
You started 24th, so even if he drops back to the tail end of the top 10, that is still a long gain. Maybe he looks to implement that the second time around if we do see another set of green flag pit stops. JP, back down to you, where they were all just in for service and are probably good until we get about 2/3 of the way in.
Give or take, yes, already drivers talking about potential underfueling for the race car, but a majority of the small adjustments in the pit lane were a couple things. One, decreasing the tape. Many drivers across the board, across all different teams, have reported overheating on the track, especially in traffic, especially by the end of the run still. As well, drivers have also made adjustments to tighten some of their cars as the track continues to loosen up as the race goes on. Many teams are expecting it in their cars to get looser and looser as this run progresses all the way to the end of this stint.
Great information, Justin, and I would agree completely with their assessment. Most of these mile-and-a-half tracks, as the temperature cools, as the sun has set, the front tires, the front of the cars seem to gain grip sooner. A little shocked at the tape adjustments, though. I would have thought they would have been able to go the other way, Parker. Basically add tape as the track temperature and the air temperature cooled. Obviously, everybody knows the speed in tape, and all these teams being very aggressive early.
Right, Steve, so there's so much speed in that, and all these teams push it as far as they can. And I know a lot of people know, and fans of this series here always say how much these drivers put effort-wise and how much testing they do for this. And that's one of the things they test. How much tape can I get away with? But you don't get to test very often. Well, having about 40 cars on the racetrack in a pack with the whole talent level that is in the eNASCAR series is going to force you to run in those packs, run in traffic, and not be able to get the same cooling to the car that you would have in testing. And they know, as you mentioned, that's free speed if you can get away with it. But if you're overheating that engine, eventually it blows up, then you're getting nothing out of it. So you have to decrease. And odd knowing that the temperature is going down that they do that, but I think it's a lot of these teams just pushing everything they can to try and find some speed.
And Evan, the playoff guys, they have to love this clean and green race, right? Everybody came in trying to protect points. The good thing about a green race, no accidents to get caught up in. And the ones that started towards the front have held on to that track position. Even the ones that have fallen back have kept themselves kind of in touch. And they're not going to lose a ton of points.
Yeah, they've been all doing a pretty good job, and I think you're right when you talk about that because, the guys up front we talked about consistently. If you've been consistent over the course of 14 races, you're probably a driver who wants the race to go green. You're confident in what you have, behind you, and you're going to try to make that work out. It is those races when you have yellows and restarts and incidents and mixed strategies because of that it can kind of throw things up in the air. And maybe that's what the drivers below the cut line are actually hoping for. But this big, long string of cars is what is going to be the battle for the race lead. But again, for now, it is still just for second on back. Michael Guerrilla down pit road, not going to be able to make it to halfway home. And it looks like as well that we just saw the other driver come in too. So both drivers, there you go, has now come down to pit road. They were about 5 laps short of making it to halfway distance. Not going to be able to do it. They're probably not going to be able to go to the end of this race. They'll need to top off on fuel, get a splash and go later. And now all is right. The pit cycle has cycled through close to halfway, and your race leader, Ryan Luza, trailed by Logan Clampett. There's the 32 machine of Keegan Leahy right now. He runs P11. Get a great view of a battle between Graham Bolin and Bobby Zelensky.
Yeah, you mentioned Ural Kian and Michael Guerrilla, who have just come to pit road. Now they need this to run green. Now that they have the freshest tires on the racetrack, Evan, I know what you were saying about being short from the finish. That's a long ways out. That's 50, 60, 65, 70 laps from now. They need a good 30-lap run here to use those fresh tires, gain back the time they lost by staying on the racetrack.
Just kind of looking at this lead pack, see if drivers are struggling and kind of who's falling back. Of course, the older tires for Shearburn now have him 5th in this group, but again, that's still way up from where he was at the get-go. Even Nick Ottinger did a very good job, and it goes to show you just how much of a difference one lap can make. Parker, you were talking about 1.5 to 2 seconds of fall off, fresh tires to old tires. Ottinger really wasn't one of the cars up front. It was kind of the big three, Luza, Clampett, Conti. He undercut them by just 1 lap. There he is, right in the thick of things.
Yeah, it's about 1.8 seconds, right, that he was going to be faster. I am impressed by Chris Shearburn hanging on there with how many laps he had on his tires. I think that was a huge net gain for him. I don't know. That seems like some Letarte esports strategy right there, if I've ever seen it. It has Letarte all over it, using that to his advantage and being able to hang up here in the top 5.
Well, what's not to love about racing under the lights at Las Vegas Motor Speedway? Let's take in the sights and sounds and go iRacing full throttle. Caution at lap number 70. Graham Bolin is slow on the front straightaway. We had just seen the good battle that he was involved in before we went there for full throttle. And I believe that battle for 9th and 8th position turned a little bit sour. We are under yellow for the first time tonight. And fortunately enough, I suppose it wasn't right after the green flag pit stops to mess up the strategies too much. But let's take a second look, guys. That's Bolin funny with the 88 of Davies.
Yeah, Bolin basically on the bottom of the racetrack. I don't see anything too serious right here. Oh, he just gets high. Contact with the 88, it looks like. It actually looks like he almost spins himself out, realized he was going to take out the 88. He got so high, there was going to be significant contact.
Just started to get away from him. That always happens off turn 4 as we start to see the leaders come down for pit stops. You just get tight a lot of times. The track really tightens up off the exit, and you sort of fall into each other, and that's exactly what happened to Bolin. Came in this race 24 points out the cutoff. That's going to hurt big time as he goes into Talladega if he can't salvage some good points here today.
So even though these drivers, guys, were just down pit road about 25 laps ago, this is really interesting because they're all going to come in to top off. They're going to get tires. We're not really concerned on our limit yet. They're going to have a set left after this. But this time by was 64 laps to go, and the longest that those couple of drivers who we were talking about staying out is it's Logan Clampett winning the race on pit road. I saw Tian do 62 laps before he had to come down pit road. So this could be awfully tight on going the distance with this stop right here. Maybe seeing some guys towards the back even top it off before we get back underway.
Yeah, I think that's a great call. Hopefully the second Letard Esport car of Therese, he just hasn't, Santiago hasn't had a ton of speed tonight. He's been outside the top 25. I like that strategy call. You mentioned this evens up the field. That strategy you discussed for Shearburn really played out. He was outside the top 15, pitted early, fell back a little bit, but used those fresh tires to gain some track position. It'll be interesting to see now what the strategy is. Do you just accept you can't make it the whole way and pit halfway through this run? Or do you run a little bit longer because you're afraid you might get a yellow?
I think what you're seeing these leaders do, like you're watching Logan Clampett right now, run around on the apron. He's clutching it, shutting that motor off, trying to save every ounce of fuel possible. And I think although the leaders can go flat out that first 10 laps of a run, you are going to want to save. So it's going to be that game of cat and mouse at the front, riding with as the leader. If you are the leader, it's trying to back the field up and save as much as you can. And if you're not, it might even be easier being in second, third, fourth, or fifth, where you can just roll out of the throttle and sort of keep as close to the leader as you can without using as much fuel as possible.
We're on the radio now with Graham Bolin. Graham, we just saw the incident there that's going to drop you off to the back. What'd you see from behind the wheel?
Well, I thought I gave him enough room. I guess not. I mean, I use a point of reference, like the seam off for. I can't really expect a guy to be like a couple lanes off the wall off exit, but I don't know. I have to look at it and see if it's my fault or not.
The car had speed, though. I mean, you started top 10. You had been running top 10. Do you have an assessment yet on if there's enough damage on that car to slow you down and kind of what the look will be like for the second half of this race for you as you're outside now at the top 30?
Well, there's no engine damage, but I'm pretty sure like it's kind of killed by aero. But we're doing pretty good. I was doing the same strat as I just like have a lap pressures and just let the draft carry us through the front. But I don't know. I just didn't expect them to be that far off the wall.
Yeah, Graham, I understand what you're saying about the corner exit. How about the handling of the race car? We've talked a lot about wide open for the first 5 or 10 laps. At what point into a run did you have to worry about getting out of gas?
I was kind of plowing center because my setup is more trimmed down than everybody else. Like I went for like short run because kind of going for a win. So, but yeah, it was just plowing and then the center of the corner. I didn't expect it to be this tight, but that's all.
Well, Graham, I'll let you get back to it as we take another look with the onboard to that incident. I know there's a lot of critical points up for grabs in this one. Good luck. That's a quick chat with Graham Bolin on board with the 18 machine as we get set to restart this race. Logan Clampett going to be on the inside of the front row for what will show to be a 61 lap run to the end of this race. Granted, guys, it's not really guaranteed because everybody knows what happens when you group these guys back up.
Yeah, that's the big concern for all these playoff guys now. Graham Bolin, what a nice job of the interview. I'm going to let you know that if you interviewed me that soon, even as a crew chief after an accident, there's no way I could have been that soft-spoken. It just shows how mature these drivers are. They give great interviews. But this restart right here is going to be important for that 99, Parker.
It is. It's going to be key. Although I'm going to be curious, does he want to lead? Does he want to ride maybe 2 or 3 cars back, get the aid of the draft and save fuel? Because as you mentioned, this is right on the fuel window.
Yeah, if
the
I'm
bean
Chris
machine,
Sherburne,
right? That's what we're calling it?
Yeah, the
bean machine. Yes.
That's correct.
Bean machine out in front as we take a restart. 73 laps down.
Oh! Back to the middle of the pack there. We see a bit of 3 wide jump into the apron. Couldn't quite say who that was. Maybe Zelensky. That was a great move. It looked like it worked for him.
You can cook one of those drivers. I saw Kerwin 3 wide a little bit further back. I mean, your race leader's not spread it out, though. You can see the challenge. Ottinger trying his best on the outside. But how about down low? Maybe a touch there by Brandon Cattell. He'll go to the very inside. He wants the race lead for the first time.
Three wide, multiple rows. Deep. This is where it gets really tough when you're on the straightaway. You're jockeying for position, trying to find the right holes, trying to find the right moves. There's 3 wide. You're hearing the cars come from the outside, from the inside, and it's really tough to see Zelensky all the way out there in that 3rd groove, trying to make headway up there. We'll see if he can carry that momentum down the front stretch.
And my hands are sweaty for the current driver on the bubble, Real Fowler, right there in that red and white number 2. Slides up. Now he's in the middle lane of contact on the quarter panel. My goodness, he's got to be nervous.
No room to spare as he came up and across the 46 and Jimmy Mullis there. His race teammate Zelensky, the lone driver, now squeezed out 3 wide as all of this battling happens around position 15. We keep talking playoffs. We keep talking points and about what it would mean for a driver to win the championship this year. Well, don't take it from us. Take it from them. Here's what the drivers had to say about what it would mean to win the title.
Winning a championship in this series, to do it for me and Burton it's just super awesome and unthinkable. It would be a dream to win the championship. It's been a dream of mine since 2nd grade to race in a real life car, maybe at a local short track or something. But this is beyond that, especially this year, for example. We went from $10,000 3 years ago winning the championship. Now we're at $100,000, and now we're here. So we were close in 2017. Just hope to top it off and get one more position in 2020.
Yeah, well, I came off of a pretty bad 2019, so it'd mean a lot just to bounce back and be in contention again. A lot of people kind of lost their belief in me last year, so I'm back this year to prove them wrong and get VRS back up top.
Well, it would mean the world to me, specifically just because Junior Motorsports is backing me and they support me, and the fact that I work there, I think it would be a lot of fun to bring home the trophy back to JRM, and also to make up for a close miss back in 2010.
Right now, I want it more than anything, and it's not for the money. It's just a pride thing. I've been doing this for a long time now, and I feel like I'm more than capable of doing it, and I'm just going to keep working at it and trying to get there.
Oh, I'd love to win, of course. I think any of these guys would, but I'd be probably one of the better things I've done, so it'd be awesome. I'd honestly be speechless. They'd interview me afterward, and I would have no words. It'd just be all emotion. Of course, I'm not the most emotional guy anyways, but to be able to win in the series, even just a race, would be cool, and honestly would make me so happy. So to be able to win the whole series would just be insane.
Right, yeah, this year I'm just going for that shot again. I wanna try turn 3 and 4 over one more time this year. That 100K top prize is probably pretty enticing to a lot of people, but for some reason I think just the glory of winning the championship is more important to me than just the money right now. I can't shake my head at 100K though. I'd go for that too.
For me personally, validation. I've been winning a lot of races, but kind of don't compete in all of them every year. And it'd be validation just to be able to hoist the trophy up. And for William, that's what he's paying me to do. He's paying me to win the championship, win races, and just make sure we're putting that car in victory lane.
I want to win a championship so bad. It's top of my list of what I want to get done. I already have one win in the bag. I'd like to have a few more this year and in my career as well. But I really want to get a championship, and to get one would mean the world to me.
Well, we're under the caution flag after an incident involving Michael Guest. And Steve, I think you were the one that said you were nervous for Ray Alfala, who's on that bubble, and he was in the middle of the 3 wide. And it turns out that is where all of this kicked off. Guest was involved. I saw quite a wild ride for the 37, but let's see what happened.
Right here, just a packed up look. The 33 is that white and black car kind of in the middle right here. Oh, looks like smoke out the back of the car. I think the 33 blew up, and then contact, heavy contact behind him. I think that's the 37 going around. Very unfortunate for Guest, who was 22nd in the points. You mentioned relegation. This is going to hurt him. That basically the engine, I think it's an engine that expired on the 33. That's going to hurt him in his quest to stay up inside that top 20.
Remember what Justin told us earlier in his report about some of the teams having to take away tape. They're all pushing as far as they can with the tape. It's free speed, but they run the risk when you're running in that pack 2-3 wide and it goes on for too many laps. You don't get the air to that engine. It will do exactly what you saw there, and that's blow up.
Well, we talk points. There's a live look at what the championship standings is coming into this evening. And look at the 2-car of Ray Alfala. He came into tonight on the bubble, about 19 ahead of the next closest driver, but that incident has dropped him to 29th, and even lower down, I'm showing Ray Alfala 35th on track, so he goes just like that, plus 19 to minus 9.
That is what you did not want to happen here tonight, because that is a very precarious position as to go into Talladega. If he can't just find some way of reclaiming some of that, maybe hoping for some more attrition here, more yellows, that can get him just a little bit closer to that line. But for a man who's been so successful in this series, he's, multi-time champion, had a tough season last season, looked like he could rebound here at that, starting that win at Atlanta, and now finds himself on the outside looking in, going to a super speedway race, Steve. I mean, you're going to have to find a TUM subscription or something there for through the next couple of days leading up to that one, because that is going to be full of nerves.
Yeah, full of nerves. With 52 laps to go, though, he just hopes that he can find a claw some points back and try to help his case. You never know. Every point's going to matter when it comes to Talladega.
The restart going to be in Brandon Cattell's hands on the inside. He'll bring us through it, and there's contact behind. Luza, I think, got hit by Garrett Lowe from behind. Lowe hit the eject button 3 wide now, 2 rows deep, as Lowe tries to get back going. He'll lose about a half a dozen spots. They're all chasing the 14.
Wow, all the way down to the apron. Many cars blocking. You're starting to see, knowing that this is, with the amount of laps left, there's no concerns really with fuel. This is now a straight up run to the end. If we go green, it's going to be about getting track position and being able to conserve those tires to have that speed in the long run. That's why they're being so aggressive. Almost 4 wide in turn 1 there back to back.
You mentioned back in the pack, Chris Shearborn pitted for tires all the way back in the 28th position. Have about 15 lap pressure tires in the leaders. We'll see if they pay off. Ray Alfala below the cut line now in the 9th position. There's the 36 machine right there, running right around the bottom. I know he has fresh tires. My concern, though, Evan, is where do you go with them? I mean, it's 2 wide in front of him, and if he gets by those 2, then it's 3 wide and just a glob. Look at the mess in front of him.
He's got a lot of traffic to get through as you slice it and dice it. That's the 75 of Phil Diaz on the outside, and then the 79 of Brian Schoenberg up the road. Something else to note, though, is that I believe that was the last set of tires that Shearburn put on the car. Again, we talked about they have 4. You start with 1, you got 3 in the pits. If that was his 3rd 4-tire stop, that's it for him for the night, which gives him an advantage now. But with 48 laps to go, if there's a later yellow, you would suspect maybe those lead cars would come down to the pit lane, then you would be on the back foot. But look at this mess of cars, 3 wide and several rows deep as Ryan Luza now taking it back to Cattell. He'll go to the outside. He wants to get back to the top of the board, but Brandon Cattell's having a great night going head-to-head with the driver with the most wins this year in Ryan Luza.
All right, car owner, Parker, you look like you're going to throw up. What's wrong?
I'm just watching. You know, sitting there in the middle, 3 wide, have a chance to win this thing. Looking like we could find ourselves locked in the playoffs if he can find a way just to be in this top 5 at the end of the of here tonight. But I mean, we're talking about Talladega being the next race. I'm seeing 2, 3 wide, 4 rows deep. I mean, this might be Talladega. I mean, this is no different right here watching these cars run like this, just side by side all the way through the field. What an awesome race at the front, though. I mean, this is just great racing side by. I just love watching Luza and Brandon Hayes-Cattell running side by side like this. Very cool to see.
In the middle of that 3 wide, I just want to mention Steve. Oh, almost touched there as Davies came up and on the 99 and clamping. As we're talking in the booth about these drivers looking like they're about to bin it, that's what the drivers are saying as well. You're on board with Jake Nichols. Hear what he had to say on that last run before the incident happened.
Like trying to get off the bottom, but I can't.
I think these guys are trying to save by stacking up the 2 lines and just running side by side above the leads.
That's a recipe for a 25-car wreck.
We didn't quite have 25, but they were right.
Strategy. Not even just in terms of where working. Oh, we got a caution on the racetrack, but that's an interesting strategy. I don't know if you can pull that one off.
Steve, close your eyes. As I look a little bit further back in the pack, Santiago Tierres is one of the drivers involved in this one. He wasn't the only one, but that is a lot of damage as it looked like it happened down the backstretch at into 3.
Yeah, the track pass Chevrolet no longer has all the body panels. Never the look you're looking for. A rookie in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola Series, Santiago Tierres, making his first run at it, has showed decent speed, but I think he's just learning. We talk about it, just how deep the field is, how competitive it is. A very talented driver, just so much to learn, and you see once again a little bit of an issue here. You know, he'll go back down a series and try to requalify and come try to do it again.
Let's take a second look at what happened here down the back straightaway. That's Bob Bryant up the road. Tierres behind, and you can see the contact comes. That's Alex McCollum. He gets into the wall. It looks like Overland got a bit of damage, the 17 as well, but it looked like some sort of a checkup when he had so many cars on top of each other in the 3 that Tierres tried to do the smart thing and back out. Instead, got run over from behind. And you can see the 14 machine get down at pit road. This is not a universal call. Most of your leaders deciding to pit, but a lot of drivers going to stay out, take over the race lead as Kane Cook now goes to the top of the board.
Yeah, this is going to jumble up the running order as well. We have guys on completely different pit strategies and tire counts. You talk about Kane Cook in the 55. You have the 6 out there as well. This is how close it was for the 36 of Sherburne, right on board for this accident. It's going to happen up to his right. They're going to stack up, come down the hill. Great avoidance by the Letard Esport driver, that mane and tail Chevy. You mentioned he put his last set of tires on. He couldn't afford to slide them. He didn't slide them. And for that reason, he's going to restart up inside the top 10 now with 43 to go. We saw earlier the 36 pretty decent on older tires, Parker. We'll see if he can steal a good run out of the race tonight.
This sort of works out for him as long as he can hold off those guys coming on newer tires behind him. But if he can make some headway early, especially on some of these drivers in front of him that were on those older tires that decided to stay out and save that set, then I think he could maybe get that buffer zone between him and the newer tires that behind him. So it's almost like we've got a couple levels of tires, a couple tiers here as we get closer to this restart, and it's gonna be interesting to see which ones overtake each other and find themselves getting closer to the front.
It's a mixed bag of who's pitted and who has not. Your top 8 stayed out. There's a couple of drivers there on the back who pitted not this yellow, but the yellow before. And then, of course, all the drivers who opted to come down to the pit lane this time, many of them race leaders. Luza, Cattell going to go from the race lead to 16th and 18th, respectively. They're going to have some work to do. And, yes, Steve, I'll give this one back to you because your driver's on the radio with us.
Santiago, we were kind of watching your race. You were a little bit in the back there, but looked like you were making some adjustments. Car was driving better. What happened there into 3? Looked like a little contact.
Yeah, I hate to be talking to you right now, Steve, but yeah, we got kind of squeezed there, and I had to lift and just got run over. It's just product of just the way the racing is. It's so close, it's so hard to pass. People are just kind of taking what they can get, but we were good. Track Pass Chevy was working its way to the front. It was driving good. So I hate I'm talking to you again, but it's good while it lasted, I guess.
Yeah, watching you was better than talking to you, but you're doing a good job of explaining the action. You mentioned all you had to do was check up, got run over from behind. I don't think that was even on purpose. The racing is just crazy. Parker just said it looked like Talladega, 2 and 3 wide on new tires. Explain it from behind the wheel.
It's intense, just like you said. I mean, any little checkup, and people just can't check up in time. We're going so fast to the corner. It's like you said, it's a lot like Vegas, so it's intense. It's fun in its own way, but yeah, definitely not on the good side of it this time.
All right, man. Well, better luck next week at Talladega. Unfortunately, I don't think there's anything you could have done different tonight, but we'll have to see. And guys, we were just talking to Santiago, and I see just in front of him the 36. So it was a bad string of action for Letard Esports, but such is racing, right? That's how it works.
Oh man, I didn't know Chris got caught up in it. That stinks. So.
Well, we always appreciate these guys allowing us to kind of pick their brains immediately after the incident. Bolin, still in this race, and looks like Santiago as well. Not going to lose the lead lap, so he's back 34th position. Going to try to restart and kind of stay in the conversation for this one. But how about some new faces up front? Kane Cook, your race leader. Nathan Lyon to second. But all the drivers stayed out is through P8. So Jimmy Mullis, Blake Reynolds, Corey Vincent, Matt Busa, Zach Novak, Casey Kerwin. We mentioned some of them in passing. There's your last pit stop number. You can see the difference between how those drivers have stayed out to get to this point while drivers from behind pitted. Let's see what these cars can do. Again, they would ideally love to see 40 laps from now to the end of the race today. We try to surprise some folks. So the 55 of Cook going to be in control for the inside of this one. Again, the top 8 old tires with the fresh rubber from this cycle, not until 16th on back as we're back underway.
With 41 laps to go, you mentioned that fresh rubber. I wondered there that you saw a stack up in the back. That's what happens. New tires don't want to accelerate as good. Now you have 2, 3, and 4 wide. With only 40 laps to go, Parker, these guys on clean, fresh tires need to make something happen and also protect points. I'm not sure how you do both.
Yeah, you got to go. But right now it's probably the hardest time. You see 3 wide right there. Looks like Keegan may let a little bit of good maybe from that checkup on the restart there. That hopefully that doesn't hurt his speed too much as they're jockey position going all over the place. And this is what you have to do. You've got to move forward because you're on those newer tires. Take advantage of now, get the track position, and put those other guys in a box if there is a caution.
A little bit of 4 wide, I think I saw that time. There it is at a turn number 2, and it's not just back here. Oh, they're smoking. It's a huge wreck. Vincent into the outside wall, and at least a dozen or so more. It is a huge one at lap number 96.
Well, we saw that coming. I think when you have that many cars and that big a pack on old tires, new tires trying to come through the field, late in the race, you're going to have a lack of give and take. And, I'm sure we'll get a replay here soon to see exactly what went down. But you just felt like something like that was brewing. I saw actually even a couple of the drivers that were on newer tires, even Logan Clement, he went to the high side, started backing off. I think some of them sensed that sort of thing could happen that we just saw there, a major pileup going into turn 2.
It's a big mess. We'll step aside, and when we come back, we'll pick up the pieces as we're under caution late at Las Vegas. Kane Cook, your race leader.
For those living together and those living apart. For classmates, graduates, and teachers making the best of it. For the restaurants delivering to our doorsteps. For the frontline workers putting it on the line every single day. For this great nation determined to be stronger on the other side. Thanks to all of you, we'll be together again.
wild ride starts at NASCAR's Lady in Black.
Harvick wins the Southern 500.
And for 16 drivers, it's all or nothing the rest of the way. Fighting off elimination at the greatest tracks in the show. Threading the needle through the big ones. Fighting for the right to duel in the desert. Everything possible, nothing guaranteed. Yes, please. NASCAR Playoffs live from Las Vegas on NBCSN.
Coverage of tonight's race is brought to you by Coca-Cola, the official fan refreshment of eNASCAR. And by ASUS, an official gaming hardware partner of the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series. I want to remind you one more time to enter tonight's ASUS giveaway. You could walk away with a one-year iRacing membership, a tough gaming monitor, and a swag bag. To enter, go find the ASUS Twitter handle at ASUS_ROGNA for more information. Back live from the virtual Las Vegas Motor Speedway, Evan Pasoko, Steve Latartan, Parker Kligerman with you. And moments after the huge one, let's take a second look, guys, and see what happened.
Well, here you see 3 and 4 wide racing. Parker, you mentioned it, just not enough real estate for everybody. Oh, right there. It seems like the 5 makes contact with the wall, turns left, gets into the 90, and then from here, it's just complete chaos.
Yeah, it's Matt Busa there. You can see him just almost he got the wall a bit, almost shoved him down into Zach Novak, and then they were so far up in the field, and everyone was 3 and 4 wide that it collected everyone behind them. Just basically put a block on the track. Wow, that is a major. You said it right, Evan. The huge one. It's not the big one. It was the huge one here down the backstretch at Las Vegas, and it's just, we're gonna have to pick up the pieces throughout this to figure out exactly who has cars that can continue the next 35 laps. Who's gonna find themselves just trying to salvage any points possible to try and make it in a better position going to Talladega.
Yeah, here we were warning everybody about Talladega being next week. I didn't think it was this week, but that was a big mess in turn 3. And let's take a look at the live points again. We've seen it go up and down, Clampett involved in that incident, a little bit closer to that red line than he would want to. But Brad Davies, a huge hit, guys, was 8th before the yellow involved in the incident. That 88 machine now down to 13th in the live standings. All it takes, wrong place at the wrong time, had nothing to do with what started the incident, but you get involved in the wreck, and that could be what puts you outside of the bubble as we head to the regular season finale next week from Talladega. So, leaders pitted. Let's try it again. Jimmy Mullis on 30-lap old tires, gonna try to make this thing happen against everybody else as we go back underway. The cars behind, 21-lap fresher tires. Let's see. Look at Cattell to the inside as he shuts the door on Ottinger.
Parker, I think you said it the best. We're going to have to figure out who has damage and who doesn't.
I think that's the thing. I think they're trying to sort that out right now. You see drivers moving around, something like that. You have damage. Graham Bowen was involved in the incident earlier. He has damage. Cars without damage. So this is really, it's almost a tamer restart, but it's because you don't know who you should be pushing and who you shouldn't be pushing because you don't know how fast their car is right now.
I saw Dylan Duval drop like a rock. He went down through the middle, 3 wide. Looks like everybody else towards the front has figured it out. But you can see Mullis, he really pushed that time at a 2. The old tires just not working for him. Shearburn going to stay behind, but Conti going to go to the bottom. That 8 car was in a very good position to win this race early when we were on that long green flag run through pit stops. It has since gotten a lot more muddy since. Look at the 6 and Nathan Lyon to the inside as up front, Brandon Cattell going to make that number 14 wide. Here's Lowe to the inside. He'll get a nose in side by side for the race lead.
two of the fastest cars we've seen throughout this race that weren't involved in that wreck is that 8 car Michael Conti, the 25, and Nick Andrew, is low, moves up the track, scares Nick up the racetrack as well. You saw that evasive move into turn 3. He's going to lose some positions, goes from fighting for the lead to falling back just to fighting to stay in the top 5.
3 wide for the 3rd position, 3 wide, a row behind him.
You can see that lead group left-hand side of your screen, then the battle a little bit further down the running order for about 13th position on back on the right. And the battle for the lead kind of looks more like a mid-pack battle. Look at Cattell to the inside. What a block by Nathan Lyon to the apron to shut the door. Here comes Shearburn now to the inside. 3 wide for the race lead at 30 laps to go. These guys leaving it all out there.
30 to go is the key. I'm not sure these guys know that or care. They're racing like it's the last lap. I think they know that track position is going to be so vital as the tires wear. 30 laps to go. Chris Shearburn vitally trying to lead a lap. He's yet to lead today. Get that 1-point bonus for leading a lap.
And it's our Coca-Cola onboard look with Blake Reynolds as he hits the eject button, almost decided to squeeze it in between Shearburn and the 14. Let's ride. Oh, and it's the 6 car, Nathan Lyon, held into the outside wall. The 47 involved as well. And another caution at lap 106. I don't know about you two, but I was grimacing for that entire run, and it seemed like just when they had finally kind of figured things out, that 6 car, I don't know if it was a gap that closed or what, but he came shooting and slammed into the door of Shearburn.
Parker, I love that view, right? Because that's what you have when you're out there racing. You don't know what happened to your right. All of a sudden, a car comes across in front of you, makes contact with another car.
Exactly. We're going to get a replay here, and I think you nailed it, Steve. They were going so hard because they knew they had to get that track position when the tires fall off. You see Nathan Lyon up there on the high side, that white 6 car. Now they're 3 wide. That's Garrett Lowe in the middle, and he's just going to tag him. He goes down, hits off Shearburn, and then goes back up the track. Steve Sheehan has nowhere to go in the 47, plows in him, and then the outside wall. And wow, it's just it's such tight racing. I mean, there's not, it's such little room for error, and they're pushing so hard to try and just take any momentum whenever you can get it. You don't want to give it up, so you're going to run with it, and sometimes it means running into each other.
So a lot happened there in turn 3. The incident is not as big as the one before, but it is going to force a lot of drivers down to the pit lane to try to get some things fixed up and patched up as they try to kind of keep this thing going and head off to the end of that one. But it is a tough break for all those drivers, again, because it was a little bit of pit strategy that had kind of cycled up the running order, given some of those drivers a real look at a battle for the race lead. A lot of them still in it. But unfortunately, the night could have come to an end, I think, competitive-wise for Nathan Lyon, who I believe we have on the radio. Nathan, tell us what you saw from behind the wheel.
I was up against the wall. I made the mistake of leaving the bottom open. I should have protected the bottom better. But I was up against the wall, and Garrett said he was trying to back out, and I think he might have just hooked his car into mine and just kind of along for the ride at that point.
Nathan, we saw, you mentioned the getting to the bottom. I mean, we've seen so much 3 wide action, especially early on. Were you guys just pushing really hard there because you wanted to get that track position, knowing that the tires were going to fall off, and just going through any lane? And which lane was sort of preferred, at least early on there?
Early on, definitely the bottom. I think just the shortest distance around was the best way to go. Seemed like it had the best momentum somehow, and I thought maybe moving up a lane a little bit with my tire advantage might be okay. But someone got underneath, could tell, I think it was Chris. So at that point, we were pit 3, and I just couldn't really go anywhere at that point.
So Nathan, I guess the question we have now is, I won't lie, I don't cover a lot of these. I'm confused. So many accidents, so many cars damaged. Who do you think we're looking at that's left up there? We have the 14, we have Shearburn in the 36, Blake in the 3. Who's your pick? Who did you think you were just up there racing with him? Who had the best speed?
I think it's either going to come down to Reynolds, Kane, Cattell. I know Griglia is undamaged as well. I think it's between those 4.
Well, we'll let you get back to it, Nathan. We appreciate the time, and best of luck back out there.
Thanks, guys.
We're also going to hop on the radio with somebody else who's had a bit of a rough go as of late. That's Ryan Luza. Ryan, it looked like that you had the speed back in this car, the kind of first half of the season speed, and then all of a sudden it kind of got flipped on his head. But up until that point, how was it?
I was very surprised. We were super fast. I was really excited, to be honest with you. Going for 4 in a row here and trying to stay undefeated. I was shocked, and I was super happy to be running up front. And I kind of knew there would probably be a mess there with half of us pitting and half of us staying out, but just got collected. But yeah, I mean, sucks that I probably won't be locked in going into Dega now, which was going to be nice, not having to worry about, you know, the cut line or anything. But we were really fast, and that's a good thing. So hopefully we keep that speed going into the chase.
Yeah, Ryan, Steve Letarte here. You had great pace. My question is about the racing. You know, it seems like 2 and 3 wide lasts longer than I was expecting. I thought handling would come into play. Do you think it's the evening, the track cooling, that's just allowing everybody to have so much grip? Even on old tires, it seems like you can hang out 2 wide pretty easy.
Yeah, I was surprised on the first run that we went single file as much as we did, to be honest with you. But the draft is just so big here at Vegas, and like you said, there's so much grip, especially with it being at night, that we're all packed up and just stuck together. I wanted it to go green so we could stay single file, but this always happens to us. So,
Ryan, just quickly, what's your confidence level going into a super speedway race at Talladega now?
0. So, I mean, never know what's going to happen there, and that's not my wheelhouse. I don't really enjoy them that much, but can go and win and can go and finish, 37th. So, I'll probably just run around to the back and try to miss the wrecks, and that should be all that I need to get into the playoffs here.
Well, good luck, Ryan, as you head off to Talladega, as he's stuck on the pit lane 4 laps down right now and not on track for the restart. As well, we try it again. This time, going to be 24 laps to go on the scoring pylon. It'll be Cattell on the inside of the front row. That's the iRacing colors on the inside. And 36 of Shearburn took a big door hit on that incident. We'll see what he's got as he restarts from second. Back underway. A little bit slow out of the gate. Here comes Reynolds to the inside, fighting for P2.
We're not seeing, 3 wide. There's just so few cars left. There's no one really to make it 3 wide and push it sort of at the start right here. Well, I spoke too soon. As we get down the backstretch, you start to see them fan out, look position. Looks like your man Shearburn there, Steve, might be struggling a little bit of that damage on the right side.
Yeah, I think the 36 has too much damage to keep up. I'm really watching the 15. We got it's a big defensive move by the 14 up there. Brandon with a big block, high, low, high. I don't think that's going to work. The 3's still going to get to his quarter panel. Oh, he turns underneath. A little bit of a crossover, Evan, on corner exit.
And it works. It's going to get him alongside. He'll stall out a little bit down the Dallas straight. So they're going to be nose-to-nose in a battle for the lead and nose-to-nose in a battle for third behind. That's Kane Cook on the inside of Michael Conti. Here's the view, though. Michael Guerrilla, he's in 5th. He'll go to the apron to try to catch up, and he's got a great view of this battle as Blake Reynolds is slightly a nose in front. We'll see if he can break away. Still trying to stay off of the very inside to avoid those bumps. Metallo doing a good job of hanging strong. Still right there alongside. Now getting help with a push from the 8 car.
Yeah, the 15 is in a great position to get his season best. Currently a season best of 15th in Indianapolis. Easily running inside the top 5 today with perhaps the straightest sheet metal on the racetrack. We'll see if he can keep it going as we see the 18 pull to the left of the 36. Now we jump on board. This is a great look right here at the battle for the lead.
Oh, Brandon Hayes-Cattell shoots to the bottom right there. Blake Reynolds puts the block on him. Once again, just doing everything they can to try and protect that track position. Michael Conti up top in the 8 car, trying to use momentum up there to get to the 14. We're seeing some bump drafting just coming over to 20 to go, and it's just getting more and more aggressive, guys. You're starting to see them push each other more down the straightaways, trying to get closer on the X of the corners. It's got me nervous.
And there's big names entering the picture. Conti on the outside. Here comes Mullis down low. But for a moment in time, with Reynolds first, Cattell second, and Kane Cook was third, guys. Those 3 drivers all looking for a first career win as we go down to pit lane with JP.
Real quickly here, guys, when it comes to Brandon Cattell, first things off, He feels like he's driving the race of his life. They know I'm here. The main thing is, though, for many of the teams up in the front, they're being reminded, know who you're racing, especially the points complexions, especially for Conti as well as for Cattell. Both cars are being told, expect your cars to be better the next couple of laps. This could get dicey here with Mullis now to the point.
Great report, Justin. That's, what we're seeing out of the 46 there. Jimmy Mullis is 75, Philip Diaz. Newer tires than those that they were racing against. Newer than Blake Reynolds by about 10 laps, I believe, there for Jimmy Mullis. And you're just seeing that extra grip propelling him to the front. Philip Diaz trying to just tag along with him through the pack right now. Really, Blake Reynolds at this point is just going to have to hope to try and conserve something to maybe challenge later in the run.
And how about Phil Diaz, the number 75 machine, running in a top 3 spot? He's looking not only to get the race win here now as he moves up to second, but he's looking for just his first top 5, first top 10 of the season. And he is all over the back of Jimmy Mullis. A great job for that Mode Motorsports Ford.
Yeah, sometimes you just want to have a quiet night, and the way this race has gone, quiet is a great place to be because there has been so much action that's gone wrong. You mentioned it, Phil Diaz. His best race of the year, Auto Club, all the way back to second race of the season, was just a 14th place. We have seen some better speed than that out of the 75 over time, but we have yet to see a better finish. He's put himself in a great position with 16 laps to go.
Team owner Kyle Long is pretty psyched right now watching that. You know how excited he gets about these races, just about iRacing, NASCAR in general. I'm sure right now he's watching very intently, hoping he can propel that car past Jimmy Mullis in the 46.
And this is big for Jimmy Mullis. Again, the win doesn't lock him in, but Mullis entered tonight 26 points below the cut line. Look at the work it's done. He's up to position number 9. It's not enough to put him in, but does make it a little bit more of a realistic goal if he can hang on to this as we head off to Talladega next week. But it sounds like Diaz trying to work on keeping the right front on that car. That's their primary concern right now as those top 2 pull away just a little bit. There's an interesting battle. I'll let you guys talk about some of those cars.
Yeah, the 36 is Shearburn. He's been in more than one incident tonight. Overland and Bryant. I mean, these guys have their own highlight reel, Parker, for the evening.
They have. Bob's been stuck in that mid-pack all night. He's been slugging it out, duking it out 3 and 4 wide all the time. He's not really had a second to rest in that Lux Bean machine there. But he's kept it cleaner than most of the cars out there. So I'm hoping that can maybe propel him into the top 10 a little bit just by having some cleaner sheet metal at least.
Yeah, being quiet. I mean, I wouldn't have told you when we got to that first cycle of pit stops that was going to be the call. We were talking about the undercut and kind of the top 4 or 5 cars trying to dominate. But since we got that first yellow, it hasn't been yellow after yellow, but they've been timely to the point where we've seen the strategy on pit road mix up basically every single time we've slowed things down. And take a look at this battle side by side. There's your driver, left-hand side of your screen. That's the onboard look with Bob Bryant.
So I love these. I love these onboards where we get to look at the drivers and how they drive. So normally I would have my head about tilted all the way over past that trophy on the left side of his head, but that's just my style. He keeps it a little bit more rigid, runs that old Logitech, I think it's a G29, G27, one of those just basic wheels. He likes that. I like those trophies he puts behind him, but you see there the intensity, oh, got a little loose off turn 2 there, it looks like, getting the inside of the 16 of Overland, and just, I mean, look at how he works the wheel. That's how much you're having to work these things. Although they talk about it being flat out, those first couple laps, oh, even loose there as Overland gets back to the inside. He's really working that wheel because that's just what you have to do in these cars, especially as the tires fall off.
Well, you mentioned
and the hands at 9
off.
and 3, Steve. I just want to mention, we talked about this pre-race, kind of how these drivers kind of just sitting in their sim rig at home. You can do almost whatever you want with your setup, and he was very formal, if you will. Hands at 9 and 3. He was very calm and relaxed. That can't be the same for everybody, but that's one of my favorite things when we take these looks in, is to just see how differently these drivers not only race, but how they kind of set up the race station at home.
Yeah, and what I think should be pointed out is we see some of the NASCAR guys back when we saw them race earlier in the year with some very elaborate rigs, and there are drivers that have them. but you don't have to have them. I've seen some of the best. Some of these guys right here with basically a steering wheel at a table with a monitor. They are so good. If you're comfortable with that, Dale Jr. raced on an office desk for the first 6 or 8 years of his iRacing, and he was fast as can be. It's whatever's comfortable to you, as you point out. Whatever suits your style, that's what these drivers need.
Yeah, the screens in the setup doesn't help, because I can attest to that, because I have 4 monitors, and it does not help me at all when I try to drive on the sim.
If screens and a wheel were the key, then I would be fast, and I can assure you I'm not.
Believe me, Logan and Bob are way faster than me in iRacing, and I've got the best setups there is, and I know obviously I've driven race cars in real life, so it's, as you put it, Steve, I love that too. I think it's the coolest thing to see Ottinger working the wheel here, but I think it's the coolest thing about iRacing and sim racing is it just really, it doesn't matter. You can have the smallest of setups or the cheapest of setups or the most expensive, but it really comes down to your talent behind the wheel and what you do to manipulate that car and how well you drive it. And that's what's just so awesome about this series and why the talent level is so deep and why it's so competitive.
Yeah, for the longest time, we talked about Ty Majeski being one of the drivers with the highest I rating on the service, and you've seen him in some Xfinity and Truck Series starts, and he was basically just on a laptop with his wheel. He could take it wherever, and we talk about all these different ways to get involved in the sim. Well, we want you to go to iRacing.com and sign up today, because with iRacing, every day is race day. Up to 50% off all new memberships. So again, go to iRacing.com and get in the action.
I can tell you, there's nothing like it. I'm on a bunch of races most every night. Some hosted races, some open races. You mentioned it. Every day is race day, which is good, because as poor as I run most of the time, I just need as many shots as possible, Parker.
I agree. I think you got to come set up. You never know who you can be racing against. I've raced against Formula 1 stars, NASCAR drivers. You just never know when you jump in a race who's going to be in it, because it's used by everyone in the racing world. It's the best there is, and I think one of the coolest things, if you want to be one of these eNASCAR drivers, you get an iRacing Super today, and maybe about 2 years from now, you work hard enough, you have the talent, you could also be a driver getting paid to race at the top of the sport. I think that's great.
This time by 5 laps to go, and quietly as we watch the battle for second between Phil Diaz and Nick Ottinger, Jimmy Mullis has kind of pulled away from all of this. You're looking down with the battle 4th on back. Looks like that win not going to happen for Cattell. Reynolds going to get eye on the outside. Michael Conti there as well. The number 8 Chevy going to get into the mix also, but Mullis quietly almost a second up the road as he looks for win number 2 on the season.
Yeah, it came in below the cut line all the way down to the 12th position, entered 27 points out of the playoffs. A win today, while there's no guarantee, there's no win in advance, but you know what it is? It's max points, and that's the goal. Go get as many points as you can. Give yourself a shot at Talladega. We've seen other guys above the cut line have issues and all these accidents. When that's happening, Jimmy Mullis doing a really nice job trying to capitalize.
We did it earlier this year on a, looking back not that long ago at New Hampshire Motor Speedway, but obviously a very different racetrack to that here in Vegas. Now looking off of the back of Reynolds to Conti and Cattell. 40 points for a win, plus 3 bonus points. So 43, he'll lead a lap, he'll get at least 44. Not sure where he stands in the battle to get the most laps led, but that would be 1 additional bonus points. That's all you can get. 1 for leading a lap, 1 for leading the most, and then 3 for being the race winner. He'll see 2 laps to go this time by. Nothing's guaranteed. Really wants to get around to see the white flag. And the good news is he's got clean track up the road.
And Evan, you know what's interesting about Jimmy Mullis is you look at what Richmond Raceway Esports did at the beginning of this season. They brought in the defending champion, Zach Novak. I know Jimmy and him are friends. He was really excited about that. But that's a pressure-packed situation to be in when your team brings on in free agency the best guy in the series, the defending champion. But he's really risen up and performed this year, and now looking at 2 wins on the season and possibly getting far closer to making those playoffs as we head to Talladega. That's a great performance for Jimmy Mullis.
Yeah, as he sees the white flag for 1 lap to go, Evan, he ran second at the Daytona Road Course. You talked about that first round of the playoffs. It has the Roval in it. I know Bobby Zalinski is so fast, but this is the man that ran second to him at Daytona. If he could make the playoffs, he would have a great shot to make it to the final race.
It's a lot of critical points that he's been picking up late here in the season, and he's going to get at least 44 more as he heads to the regular season finale. Final time, Jimmy Mullis going to get career win number 4, his second of 2020, comes at Las Vegas.
strong win, a very smart win there. Obviously, being able to avoid the wrecks that we had. Play the strategy right with the tires to be on the newest tires there at the end, and then obviously had the speed to capitalize and made the right decisions. Very smart win for Jimmy Mullis. Very deserving win.
Started this race 23rd. In fact, look at your top four. They started 23rd, 34th, 21st, and 25th respectively. All beat out the bolster to Michael Conti, who came home in 5th position in this one. Mullis gonna do some celebrating on the front straightaway. This winning moment is brought to you by Coca-Cola, the official fan refreshment of eNASCAR. And I'm sure Mullis would love a win in your in right now. It would make life a whole lot easier, Steve, but he did everything he could to get points, got the win, he did his job, and now he has a really good look headed to next week.
Yeah, I love the win in your in when you get in the playoffs, but I love forcing these guys to show consistency over the regular season. That's what's being rewarded, and he's doing it when it matters the most. I mean, got that win at New Hampshire, as you mentioned, second at Daytona, and now bounces back with the second win of the season. We always talk about timing, Evan. Well, if you're going to catch a hot streak, the best time to do it is closing in on the playoffs.
And as he parks it right there on the front straightaway, let's take a look at our Coca-Cola move of the race, as he is now the 4th multi-time winner of 2020. And let's watch this as he battles for the race lead. We talked about Cattell, we talked about Cook, but it was the 46 Parker late on the scene who came in and spoiled the party.
Right, he had about 10 lap fresher tires. He waited, he played it right. Just sort of bided his time till they sort of got single file and then sort of used that speed to his advantage. Started to pick them off, and then as you'll see here, going off to turn one, just drives to the bottom. All the grip compared to those guys. Drives directly by Blake Reynolds. Guess he just had a little bit more energy in the Coca-Cola energy car versus just the Coca-Cola car.
What he did
Didn't
is
look
he had
back.
fresh tires, and he used them. And that's the
Stepped
key,
out.
Evan, right? Is the winning moment is he knows that he had an advantage, and he attacked that advantage, took control of the race, and then never looked back.
He had to milk it. I mean, there was at one point that he was nearly a second up the road. Credit to Phil Diaz. I mean, he closed it back in. That only ends up being a margin of victory of 0.2 of a second. Made it a little bit tighter at the end, but Jimmy Mullis got the job done. Let's take a look at our iRacing full race results. There you go. Talked about your top 5 already, especially though Mullis, Diaz, Ottinger, and Reynolds coming from outside of the top 20. And in fact, Michael Conti is the only guy who started top 10 who finishes inside of the top 10, ahead of Cattell, Guerrilla, Cook, Alfala, and Gorlinski.
Yeah, Alfala had a nice recovery. We saw him mid-pack most of the race, but he ends up finishing inside the top 10. Those points will be valuable as we move forward towards the playoffs. You see on the second page here, Chris Sherburne limped the number 36 to a 12th place. A lot of damage on that car, gained some points. Parker, your driver, Logan Clampett, home in 15th after battling. How about Graham Boland? One of the early incidents we saw, came all the way back, a rebound to finish inside the top 20.
Right, Steve. And Logan, I mean, he was devastated. Obviously had one of the top 3 fastest cars. Was looking at one point like he could lock himself in. Now he's going to be in a very precarious position to go to Talladega. Brad Davies, at one point, was 8th in the points. Who, at the middle of this race, he falls all the way back out again, finishing in 21st. Dylan Duvall showed some speed. Casey Kerwin as well. Corey Vincent had speed. And then we get to a bunch of drivers who obviously were involved in the large wrecks that we had.
Yeah, some of them started the night off well. Lyon bolted over top 10 cars. Ryan Luza, we talked with him after his incident. He had a real good look to win this race before the yellows kind of set into motion a chain of events that put him back in some of those big packs of cars, which led to some incidents. He's down 34th, all the way through Christian Challoner, position number 38, who rounds out your field here tonight from Las Vegas. Let's talk, though, with your race winner. Steve, you're chatting with Jimmy Mullis.
Jimmy, first, congratulations. An exciting race, full of accidents, full of yellows. You survived them and found your way to the front with the freshest tires. Tell us about your night.
Yeah, first off, thank you. Yeah, tonight, that was incredible, man. Everything I needed to go right went right for us. And, luckily now I'm sitting here talking to you. And, I don't know, started the race. I felt pretty good coming in. Our whole group did. And I was able to pick people off on the bottom a lot better than I expected to coming in. And so I took advantage of that early and, to try to give myself some good track position. And then after pitting under green, I think ended up around 12th before we got that yellow. So I was sitting really good, and then just fortunately missed a bunch of big wrecks and played the tire strat correctly, and yeah, here I am.
Well, do us a favor. Point that camera at you a little bit. We got to see you. You're the race winner. I mean, there you go. Get in the frame here. I mean, when you're the winner, you got to celebrate accordingly. So tell us about your season, though. Started off perhaps a little slow, lacked some top fives, but you have come to fire here recently. You got that win at New Hampshire. You back it up with a second win here. With this win, you've climbed up the points. A great second half of the year, and now you head to Talladega with a shot to make the playoffs.
Yeah, it's definitely been a roller coaster season for us. You look at 3 or 4 races earlier in the season. If I don't get wrecked, I'd be well inside the top 8, I believe, after dominating Richmond and things like that. But everything happens for a reason, I feel like. And to come in here tonight and get my first one on a 1.5 miles, and I know some people on Twitter are going to find this kind of special. First one outside of the month of July, so that is very cool. And yeah, we head to Talladega with a really good shot at making it, and going to go try to win that race too and see where we come out.
All right, so take us ahead a week. Not to dampen the celebration, you did it this week, but you're going to need a good run at Talladega. We have seen in the real world strategies of laying back, racing hard, running mid-pack. Do you have a plan going in? Is there anywhere to hide? Is there any strategy that can guarantee a good finish?
My plan going into Talladega is the same plan I had coming into tonight, and that was to do everything I can to put myself in a position to win the race. And clearly it paid off tonight. I made all the right moves, fortunately, so hopefully I can do that again next week. But yeah, I don't think Talladega really has much of a game plan. You just kind of go in there and hope for the best. And I've done the ride around strat and try to save the car, and it never really does anything good because then you just get stuck in traffic and you end up getting caught in the big one 9 times out of 10. So just gonna go there, try to race our hearts out, and see what happens.
Well, Jimmy, I've never raced at Talladega, but I got to work for who I think was the greatest ever. Dale Jr.'s advice would be take every run you get, be aggressive. That's how you get to the front. That's next week. But this week, you were the guy at the front. Congratulations, man, on your second win of the season.
Thank you, Steve.
All right, man. Evan, it's always fun to talk to the guy who won the race. He's always in the best mood.
Feeling good. He's got a real good look as he heads to Talladega. He'll be nervous in a week's time from now, but at least for now, he can sleep easy knowing that he did his job. I'll pass things back now to Parker. You're chatting with Phil Diaz after a career-high P2.
Right. Phil, great run there. Very cool to see, having the new tires, taking advantage of that fall. And Jimmy Mullis, what more do you need to maybe get by him and get that first career victory?
I don't know. We kind of made some changes before the race started, and I think we might have went the wrong way, to be honest with you. We needed Steve Letarte on the pit box tonight. but no, we made some warehouse changes at final stop and got a little tight in the mid part of that final run, but then was catching Jimmy at the end. I don't know if he knew he had it and he was just lifting a little bit, but I mean, we were giving it all. I mean, I was trying my best. I was P2 one time with about 10 or so laps to go, and I ended up P4. So this is my best career finish. I'm super happy right now.
Right, and I think this season you had a 14th place finish back at the beginning of this season. It's been a little drought since then. What's this mean to you to be up in the top 5 and be able to see that shot at getting to victory lane?
Yeah, that was I believe that was at Auto Club. It's been a really, really rough year. I don't know any other way of putting it. Anytime we've run good, we've somehow ended up collected in something, whether it be, me putting myself in a bad spot or just, wrong place, wrong time. So, I mean, this feels great. I feel really happy for Mode, actually. I know JR and Kyle are going to be super stoked about this. Kyle just started his new NASCAR show, so got something for him to talk about. So, yeah, I'm super pumped. I don't know really how to put it into words. It feels like I won, even though I didn't. But sometimes when you don't really get these finishes, especially not this year, it feels really good to finally get one.
I hear you, man. It always means a lot to finally get there and get that solid finish that you deserve. Great run tonight. Congratulations on the top 5. Hopefully you can finish up some more strong runs to finish the season.
Yeah, I sure hope so, man.
All right, Evan, that was really cool to see Phil Diaz getting up there at the front, and maybe just hoping he had a little bit more for Jimmy Mullis.
Yeah, I'm sure he wanted the win, but at the end of the day, like we said, a career high finish at P2. You can tell he's feeling pretty good. And we'll go back down now to the third step on the podium to Nick Ottinger, Steve, who we didn't really talk a ton about tonight, and to a point that you made, that was good because he couldn't really gain much in the points tonight, but he could have lost a lot. And a really solid night puts him in a great spot.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. A solid night, a third place finisher for Nick Ottinger, who drives for William Esports. Or my question is, Nick, we didn't see a lot tonight, but there you are. We're a little bit older tires. You ended up in third. Take us through your night. William Byron's going to be excited to see you got that one to the finish.
That was a workout at the end, man, keeping up with them 15-lap fresher tires. Jimmy and Phil played the strategy right, but I mean, we had such a, to be honest, that was probably the best Vegas car we brought with our William Byron Esports team. I mean, that's a credit to John for all his hard work this week. And I took a lot of notes from past 1.5 mile tracks and put it in probably about an hour before the race. And I mean, to be honest with you, it was a rocket ship. I mean, I drove from 21st, I think, to the top 5, I think, that first run. And I mean, different story. I mean, we could have won the race, but I mean, I gave it my all tonight, man. I mean, I was pretty much elbows up the last 20 laps there, trying to keep up with Timothy, I would call him, and Phil. I mean, it was fun. It was definitely a lot of fun. Just need a little bit better tire advantage there.
So you came in with a little points advantage over the cut line. You did a good job, ran well tonight. Take the pressure off heading to Talladega. How good does it feel going to Talladega knowing you don't need to go run in the top 5 to try to make the playoffs?
That's like, I don't know if you can really equate the pressure it takes off your shoulders. Just, I mean, there's like a million passes at that track constantly. I mean, you can never predict it, and especially for us on iRacing, I mean, people just constantly switch, a position here and there, and they could put you out of groove, go 3 or 4 wide, and I mean, at the end of the day, it's just like the NASCAR Cup Series and Xfinity Series and trucks on any given weekend, and it's hard to predict. You do your best to position yourself, but I mean, go in there, pretty much just not have to worry about points, just show up. I mean, not really put any pressure on ourselves to compete. I mean, we still want to go out there and win a race. I mean, you want to do your best every race, and we're not going to let up what we do. I mean, we want to keep our foot down to the floor and just make sure we keep some pressure on some other guys to perform each race and each and every lap.
That was my question. When I look at your season, you've run good at the super speedways. You had a decent run at the road course. You've had a decent streak here lately, running inside the top 10. Is this the type of momentum you need heading into the playoffs?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm being honest. I think this is probably the best cars we've brought in my career, probably in any season. I mean, we're going to a couple strong tracks for me, like you said, super speedway racing, and we got the Roval to start off the playoffs. And where we needed to pick up our program was the 1.5 mile tracks like Vegas tonight, and I mean, we did. I mean, we probably, to be honest, we probably hands down had the best car tonight, and I mean, that's all you can ask for, to progress and improve, and that's just what we did with our Logitech G team. I mean, that's exciting when we got 2 1.5 mile tracks in the playoffs and a Roval that I ain't finished outside of third. So, I mean, that's what we need to keep doing.
Those are the numbers that an owner is going to want to see. William Byron's going to be excited. Nick, congratulations on your third place run. Evan, this guy's found some speed when it matters the most. William Byron, esports driver. Nick Ottinger, third place tonight.
That's the key, is you need the speed when it matters the most. And this is the most critical point of the season, of course, as we get to the end of the regular season. We're going to head into the Talladega finale. But also now we kind of get to the point where it's almost out of your control. These drivers now have done everything they can. We've been to Daytona twice already, so keep that in mind. But through 15 rounds, they've done everything they can to position themselves for this, because they knew that this is what was coming, Parker. Same thing as the Cup Series, finishing at Daytona, and said we finished the regular season at Talladega. If you are not plus 45, you're not safe. And if you are not minus 45, all hope is not lost.
Right, and it's just an incredibly tough place to be put in that position. We saw it in real life for the drivers that were having to know that they weren't locked in. You know, that was incredibly tough because you can't even think about that. When you super speedway race, you have to race with reckless abandon if you want to run at the front. As Steve talked about, Dale Earnhardt Jr. saying, be aggressive. That's how you have to race a super speedway. I've tried the hang out the back thing. It never works. You really just need to go into there, not think about points, and that's a scary thing because literally one mistake by someone at the wrong time can end your day and end your playoff hopes. So it's just a really tough place to be, but we'll see who comes up with the best strategy, who makes it work for them, maybe avoids the wrecks, and can find themselves being able to go fight for a championship.
Well, Evan, you know how I am. I guess I'm the tough one of the group, because I'll tell anybody who goes there with pressure and complains about the pressure, this is a body of work. This took an entire season. This was race 15. Talladega will be race 16. If you don't want to stress at Talladega, you have to run better the first 15 weeks. You got to eliminate this race as being a wild card. It's the same thing we saw in real life. William Byron went to Daytona with a walk-off win to make the playoffs. The question is, it's not winning you're in, but who will show up? Who will perform? When we look at the points, who above the cut line can protect, who below the cut line can pressure. I love it. Speedway racing, so much fun to cover. A little bit nerve-wracking to take part in, but it's going to be great for the fans.
Yeah, I know Jimmy Mullis, I mentioned, is feeling good now. He's probably going to feel awful the closer we get to Talladega. But I think a key as well is to just go in there and race, because oftentimes we talk about points racing and trying to be smart about it. I almost think you can overthink this Talladega race and put yourself behind the 8 ball even more. You could be hanging back in 30th, think you're safe, but if the 29th placed car wrecks, you're still in it. You could be up front running 4th, 3rd place wrecks, it's the same story. I don't know if these guys can be too technical and try to finesse that race, because you might overthink it and end up putting yourself into an incident, whereas if you just raced it out, you might have been better. So let's take a look at what the point standings look like coming out of this evening with 15 weeks down and just 1 week left to go in the regular season. We saw them go up and down all night long. Well, here they are. We have more drivers locked in. Michael Conti, Nick Ottinger, Garrett Lowe have punched their ticket to the round of 8. They're set, but also drivers in purple have now been mathematically eliminated. So 14th on back on. But guys, let's look at that cut. Ray Alfala plus 24. I mean, normally I would think that is relatively healthy, but you know, as we go into Talladega, I'm not feeling good. I don't think Clampett's feeling too good. And Jimmy Mullis, yeah, 15. I mean, that's a lot. I mean, they're going to have to put in work to get the job done. But I think 8th place is probably going to feel worse than 9th place.
Well, this is what Talladega is all about. At a regular 1.5 miles or a regular short track, you would say, how many points can you gain? But at Talladega, the mistake, the big equalizer, the big wreck, it could move points around dramatically, and it could happen with 2 laps to go. So you can't, at any point over the course of next week's race, relax. The only ones that can relax are the ones that have put the work in. Their names are in the red. We just talked to Nick Ottinger. He's feeling good about it. He's got some momentum. Now he gets to go to Talladega just to enjoy himself and race for a trophy.
And Steve, I think this is pretty simple. You're Jimmy Mullis, you're Graham Bowen, Brad Davies, Corey Vincent, Chris Sherburne. You go to the front, race as hard as you can. There is no other strategy. Why hang out? You got to be able to go up there and lead a lap and just try to get in the position to win that race. The real decision comes down to Ryan Luza. Does he just hang out the back, try to survive? Most likely Logan Clampett, Ray Alfala, they're in the trickiest position because you're in between. Do you go up there and race hard but get wrecked and know you fell out of the playoffs, or do you hang out the back and try to pick up the pieces later on, risking that you don't get far enough up front, and maybe it's one of those great green flag races like we saw earlier at Daytona without many cautions? That's a tough position to be in. So I don't know. This is going to be a tense one. I think all these teams are going to be discussing it throughout the coming days as we lead towards Talladega, because there's no sure strategy.
Well, let's take a look at the bracket. It's now updated. 3 more of the names are in. We now know 5 of the 8 drivers who will fight for the playoffs in 2020. It all starts October the 14th from the Charlotte Motor Speedway Roval. But to quote Richmond Raceway Esports, Sin City is Gym City, as they said, as Jimmy Mullis gets the race win here tonight. And he's got himself in a better position, I should say, going forwards. As we get set to put round 15 into the rearview mirror, guys, I'll go back to you for final thoughts.
Well, I just want to thank you for having me. It's so much fun as a team owner. I watch these races all season long. I'm excited to get the chance to cover them with Parker and you, Evan. And this race didn't disappoint. You know, there were times it was single file, times it was 2 and 3 wide. We thought there'd be a wreck. The wreck was way bigger than we thought. In the end, tires mattered. And just impressed with just how well these teams can execute. No one's ever out of it. They continue to repair their cars, work their way to the front. It was a fun race.
I agree, Steve. And thank you also to iRacing and everyone for letting us do this. It's a lot of fun. I love this series. Love seeing our cars right there. I think I got to do a better job of separating team owner Parker from broadcaster Parker, because I get a little bit distracted sometimes watching that 99-77 out there. But this has been a lot of fun, and I'm always just amazed at the level of competition, the races that these racers put on. It's going to go all the way down the wire. It's going to be a great season finale later in the year at Homestead Miami.
And we'll get a bean counter going for you in the bottom corner of the screen for next race. But happy to have you guys with us, tuning in tonight and joining me in the booth. And look forward to calling the rest of the series with you guys as well. But until next time, round number 15 falls into our rearview mirror. And that's it for us here tonight from Las Vegas. I want to thank our entire team downstairs, and there's a lot of them, for James Pike, Tim Terry, Doug Hunt, Nicolette Goslin, Tim Burns, Alex Horn, Jay Kennedy, Sean Ambrose, Malik Streeter, Michael Watson, Cisco Scaramuza, Andrew Adamson, for Justin Prince, Parker Klickerman, Steve Letarte, and myself, Evan Pisoko. I want to thank you for tuning in and congratulate Jimmy Mullis. We're back in 1 week time on September the 29th from the virtual Talladega Superspeedway. That race and every race of the 2020 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series can be found exclusively here on the iRacing Esports Network and streaming live at eNASCAR.com. Until next time, good night from Las Vegas.